G'day everyone, welcome back to another video on the channel. So the AFL trade period wrapped up the other day ago, and I thought it'd be a perfect time now to go over every AFL club, have a look at their ins and outs, and yeah, just have a chat about it, and on top of that, give each club a grade from their trade period performance. If you do go on to enjoy today's video, make sure to leave a like and subscribe. They'll be heavily appreciated, and let's get into it. So let's be honest, heading into this trade period, I think the big noise was this was going to be a pretty low-key or a pretty quiet sort of period. Not really too many moves, but that was certainly a false statement, as really, I think the last few days, especially deadline day, a lot of trades did occur, and we saw some pretty obscure and some pretty interesting moves across all of the 18 clubs. But not only the player moves, but also the pick moves. Your likes of Gold Coast moving back in the draft and the Bulldogs getting picked for. All that drama did occur. But as always, we'll kick things off in alphabetical order, starting off with the Adelaide Crows. Their ends, they did bring in Chris Burgess across from the Gold Coast Suns. Alongside that, they did also get pick 14 as part of that Burgess trade, with giving away pick 24 and 27. They got in pick 20 from the compensation with Duday out of the club, where, look, I think it will hurt them without Tom Duday. I think he's always been an underrated player, but I think from Adelaide's perspective, they do back in their young, inexperienced sort of tools like Ball Ace and Michael Annie, who can play sort of that role, who looks really promising. You know, Murray, and Jordan Butts, a few of those younger players. So they probably have good faith in them. And Shane McAdam also is out of the side to go to the Melbourne Demons. Draft picks, pick 10, 14, and 20. So, you know, they're really building as a good club at the moment, Adelaide. That can always do with some more talent, especially in that midfield. But yeah, just keep on adding and investing in the draft. I think is a good move for the Crows. Brendan Burgess, which will help with the key forward stocks, and I'll be giving them a C grade. I don't think it was anything too crazy. I thought they got a really good end of the deal to bring in Burgess alongside pick 14. You know, killing sort of two birds with one stone, bring in a player and also upgrade your two picks to pick 14. So yeah, C grade for the Crows. Now move on to the Brisbane Lions, the runners-up from 2023, of course. And, you know, usually when you're in a position where you want to try and win a flag, you've got to do something bold. So, you know, I guess this is something where the Lions didn't really do anything too bold this trade period. But, you know, they didn't really have much of the draft capital, of course. But they did bring in Tom Duday as a free agent, which is a very good acquisition, I do feel. With the Lions list, probably one of the most strongest lists in the competition. They won't need Duday right away, obviously because he has the ACL injury. But when he comes in the second half of this season, I think he can make an impact, a huge one in the Brisbane Lions back six. He's a competitive player, he's athletic, he's great in the air. I think he'll be great alongside the likes of, you know, you've got the likes of course, Jack Payne and Ryan Lester and Gardner to help out Harris Andrews. Add him into the mix will be nice. Brandon Ryan, he had a few nice games for the Hawks, the mid-season recruit from last year, so that's an important in, I do feel. They could probably improve the depth over there in the key forward area with Tom Fullerton and Gunston now out of the side to Victorian clubs, and also bringing pick 39, 54 and a future fourth. So I'll be giving Brisbane a B. I like the moves they did have. Tom Duday, really good in, especially with their list, and Brandon Ryan improving the stocks too. So yeah, I think a nice trade period from the Lions. Going to give them a B. Now move on to the Carlton Blues, and they were a team prior to this trade period that there wasn't really going to be too much noise in terms of ins necessarily, but they did get, of course, the deal done with Elijah Hollands, who was rumoured to go to a Victorian club, especially Carlton, to reunite with his brother, of course, of Ollie, and that certainly did happen on deadline day. So yeah, I think this is a really exciting move for Carlton fans, because this is a player who's sort of played out of position really the last few years. He's been unable to get in the side, hasn't really been able to hit his full fitness and potential, but you get him to a side like Carlton, you've got Paddy Dow on the out, so this gives Hollands the chance to maybe play a bit more of that inside midfielder role and add into that strong midfield core that they do have. So he has every sort of potential, I do feel, to really hit his straps over there at Carlton, and they got it for a pretty good deal. Basically, they almost in a way essentially straight swapped Dow out for Hollands. They used the picks they got from Dow to bring in Hollands. Alongside that, the picks that they did give away was pick 17 and Fisher, and they did bring in 22 and 26 with that, so sort of splitting that 17 and moving back a bit in the draft, and also a bunch of future fourths they did get into and given away the future third and fourth as well. So I'm going to be giving Carlton a B grade. I like what they have done. They've brought in a player that will really improve their depth in terms of Elijah Hollands, but you know, Zach Fisher and Paddy Dow. Look, I think that will hurt their depth, but are they best 22 plays? I don't really think so. So I don't think it will hurt them too much. But, you know, a player like Collins is a really good acquisition. So nothing too crazy, but I like what they've done, Carlton. Going to be giving them a B. Now move on to the Collingwood Football Club, the premiers, of course, of the 2023 AFL season. And right off the bat, I like what they've done. Instead of just sitting on their hands and, you know, being content with their list, they've wanted to bring in some talent. They're on the sort of receiving end of a few player outs, of course, with Tal Adams wanting more opportunity, so heading up north to Sydney. And geez, this was a bit of a bombshell. Jack Ginnivan, with all the rumours and whatnot and all the speculation, he actually has moved clubs to the Hawks, and you can sort of see it in a way. 𝐼𝐷𝐼𝐻𝐿𝐼 comes in the door, which is a great, you know, I think for Collingwood. I said in my trade rumours video the other week ago, I reckon Collingwood just got to target and add more firepower to that forward half, and you add in 𝐼𝐻𝐿𝐼, who will just compete for a best 22 spot. The competition for spots is very good, I think, at Collingwood at the moment. And, you know, there's a healthy competition going on. There's like around 28 players who really are battling out for that best 22. So, you know, they're in a great position at the moment, Collingwood. 𝐻𝐿𝐼 in for that future first and pick 34. They could have probably gotten a little bit better deals for the likes of Ginnivan, Adams and 𝐻𝐿𝐼, but still what they have been able to do, I think, is really good. Bringing in a player like 𝐻𝐿𝐼 will definitely improve, I think, their forward half stocks, which is strong enough. You do feel I'm going to be giving Collingwood a B grade. I've liked what they've done, bringing in and adding in some more firepower into their forward half. Now moving on to the Essendon Bombers, and they were certainly one of the winners of this trade period. They got in, of course, a lot of ins with the likes of 𝗍𝐸𝐴𝑉𝐸 𝐷𝐸𝐻𝐻𝐿, pretty much that straight swap with Zerk Thatcher. Jade Gresham as another trade option. Todd Goldstein and Ben McKay both in as, of course, free agents. And yeah, they are, I think, really big ins. 𝐷𝐸𝐻𝐻𝐿 has that X factor, definitely. He's unable to really hit his potential sort of at Port Adelaide. He's had some nice moments, but hey, in a new, fresh environment, he can really flourish potentially. Jade Gresham, look, you know, people say he's crap, people say he's, you know, inconsistent. I definitely get that. But again, sort of in that new environment, I think, you know, with the best he can shows sort of as that mid forward, he can really light it up with the likes of String and a few of their forward half plays that can really hit their straps. Todd Goldstein as well, I think, is a really good in for Essendon, just a veteran ruckman that will sort of mentor and really help the likes of the young Nick Bryan and, of course, Sam Draper too. And Ben McKay, we've all heard, you know, the negatives and the positives of this sort of pickup. Of course, as well, the pick 3, all that whatnot. But in terms of the player, well, I think McKay in a better side here, I think that will really allow him to flourish a bit more. It's hard to play really well in a poor side, but he's always been able to show strong intercept numbers and strong one-on-one numbers. So him in a side like Essendon, he's able to, you know, probably take the opposition's best forward, allow 𝗍𝐸𝐿𝐼 and sort of Ridley to roam free. I think that can really shore up their defence and help their back six. I think McKay is going to be a good in should he stay fit, and also bring in pick 35, 61 and a future fourth. Out goes Zerk Thatcher, but I think his opportunity will be definitely most wanted, of course, at Port Adelaide. He's sort of been playing out of position. He was playing on opposition best forwards throughout 2023, which just didn't really fit him. And Dan Brozo also at the door, wanting probably, I'm assuming, a bit more opportunity, and also pick 52 and 73 in the future third and fourth out for the Dons. So yeah, they were busy, and I really like what they did. Essendon, they brought in some really good talent. You know, I think Essendon are sneakily maybe on the up. I think a few people are potentially underrating them, but yeah, definitely going to be giving them an A grade. Definitely one of the winners of this trade period. Now moving on to the Fremantle Dockers. You probably have to say right off the bat, probably one of the worst performing teams this trade period. Now, I say one of the worst performing teams short term, because long term, I think they have done okay. They've brought in 2 future firsts, both being sort of potentially end of almost first rounders, because they are picks that are owned by Port Adelaide and Collingwood, so potentially looking at 2 picks in the teens, but still they're probably looking into the future. The last few years, I think they've done really well in the draft. The 2021 draft, especially to name as well, picking up Amiss and Johnson and Erasmus. So you look at the young core Fremantle, they still are a very young side. I think they were the 3rd youngest team this year. So yeah, I think short term though, that is the issue, because they've had 3 important players, especially 𝐓𝐿𝐼, definitely one of their most underrated and key players in their forward half. He's out the door. Liam Henry, of course, just was unable to really get things clicking at Fremantle. And Joel Hamling's been injured, but he, according to the trainers over there at Fremantle, he's been in the best shape he's been in a few years, so even that's a bit of an out too. Pick 25 and a future second and fourth out, but they have loaded up the draft picks. But this year, the earliest draft pick is 34, so just based off this trade period alone, in the short term, it isn't really going to do them much favours. They sort of got on the wrong short end of the stick as well as of a few deals too, so they didn't really get the best out of a few plays. They basically gave Henry away for pretty much nothing almost as well. I thought their deal for 𝐼𝐿𝐴𝐿𝐴 was quite okay, but I'm going to be giving them a D+. I think potentially with this trade period short term, it really could hurt them, but all eyes I think are still invested in the draft, given they are still a pretty young side. And now moving on to the Geelong Football Club, definitely one of the most quietest teams this trade period. Really, the only talking points and the big drama there was from the Geelong camp with this trade period is, their GM pretty much sitting on their hands and rejecting all offers right until the end, pretty much with 𝐼𝐿𝐴𝐿𝐴. I think that initially they rejected pick 24, but finally he came, the deal was done, and they were able to bring in pick 25, 76 and 94 for 𝐼𝐿𝐴𝐿𝐴. There were talks of potentially the Cats striking a swap deal, sort of, to pick up Ollie Lord. I recommended, or I had in the video, Ollie Lord for Geelong. He would have been a great acquisition, I did feel. Shaun Dux as well was another one, but he's not really going to be leaving Freo, let's be honest. But with the draft 10 they do have, they're not really going to be doing, it was expected they weren't really going to be doing too much this trade period. So I'm going to be giving them a C-, giving away 𝐼𝐿𝐴𝐿𝐴, bringing no one in. But hey, that pick 25 could help them. So yeah, pick 8, pick 25, all eyes on the draft to see who they do take, especially in that top 10 pick. Now moving on to the Gold Coast Suns, and it was expected this trade period they were just wanting to accumulate as many picks and points as possible to match a lot of bids, especially early in this draft, given they have a lot of Gold Coast Academy players, especially early on in this draft. So picks 24, 26, 27, 32, 36, 38, 66, 71 and 74. They did start off, of course, at the start of the trade period with pick 4, and I think it was like pick 11 too. They were able to get the Dogs pick 11 and pick 17, and then they did a trade with Melbourne. Melbourne moved up 3 spots. So basically they started at pick 4 and just accumulated all the way back to the earliest pick of 24. Brought in a few future firsts, of course, as well. They did spot pick 18 to bring in that end of future first, one of those North Melbourne priority picks. And of course, they do keep that future first from the Western Bulldogs, future second from the Lions, future third from Essendon, and the outs, of course, 𝐼𝐿𝐴𝐿𝐴 had a great 2022, but with Ben King back in the side for 2023, just was unable to get much opportunity. Elijah Hollands just didn't really work out, and Chris Burgess, with the depth they do have, was unable to get first team football. So hence why he did make the move to Adelaide to improve their depths over there. And yeah, all their picks, of course, out, pretty much converting those into more points, and a future third and future fourth also out of the club. This was pretty much expected, but I do like what they did. It was, again, expected, but I'm going to be giving them a B-. I thought they got a pretty good deal from the Bulldogs from when they did give away pick 4. So, B- for the Suns. They weren't really going to be bringing in any plays at all. They just wanted to get as many points as they did, and they got some pretty good deals offers too. So yeah, Gold Coast B-. Now moving on to the GWS Giants, one of the more quieter teams this trade period. They definitely did have the draft capital to maybe potentially make a few moves. Ivan Solder was maybe rumoured. Nick Haynes was also rumoured to leave the club, but it was mostly expected that Matt Flynn would be out the door for the Giants this year. He did play a bit of footy early on this year, but with Kieran Briggs' just surgence and breakout season, and also Bruce has always really been the number 2 ruckman. Flynn's been pushed back as the number 3, so he's just moved over to the Eagles for a bit better opportunity, and they did get pick 43 in compensation. Yeah, just a C grade for GWS. I think their list is pretty strong. They had a great trade period last year, getting on the good end of some deals with Hop and Taranto out. But maybe they could have done something this trade period, but nah. They're all eyes, of course, on the draft. With those, with that great draft 10, they do have pick 7 and pick 16. So a C grade for the Giants. Now moving on to the Hawthorn Football Club, one of the most active teams in this trade period. Draft picks, pick 4, 44, 47, 49, 62 and 63. A lot of those picks, especially later in the draft, they did get for the likes, of course, of, I think Brockman was one of those as well. 𝐓𝐿𝐴𝐿𝐴 was picked 49, I'm pretty sure. And Brendan Ryan was a part of that swap deal with Gunson. How about that? Jack Gunson back home to the Hawks. Apparently, he just wanted to return back home to Victoria. Nothing against the Lions, but this was a big one. Jack Ginnivan, one of the bombshell trades of this trade period, coming across, and I thought they got a really good deal. They pretty much essentially switched future second picks. I think it was a pick in the 40s, or I think it was pick 33 too. But yeah, they do really need some, a bit of X factor and a bit of excitement, a bit of pizzazz in that forward half. And I think Jidovan really ticks the boxes. So if he can stay healthy, if he can do the right things on and off the field, I think he can be a really special player. He's kicked, I think, 50 goals in 30 games the past 2 years. So he has the talent. He really does. And 𝐼𝐻𝐿𝐼𝐴 improving those key forward stocks. They are looking for that number 2 sort of key forward, that 1-2 punch with Mitch Lewis. 𝐎𝐥𝐿𝐼𝐴 was unable to really do it this year, so he's out the door. 𝐼𝐻𝐿𝐼𝐴 can. He's a good kick for goal. And 𝐷'Ambrosio, I like it, improving that sort of area of strength. I think they're running halfbacks. They have a nice young crop. 𝐻𝐻𝐿𝐼𝐴, Seamus Mitchell, now 𝐷'Ambrosio in there, adding to the depth of that young talent they do have. So yeah, for the Hawks, I'm going to be giving them an A grade. They've been really active this trade period. They still have a good draft hand with that pick 4. So maybe Zane Duursma, if they are able to get him, probably you'd think he'll head to the Hawks, and maybe Wizard Watson. So it's an exciting off-season so far for Hawthorn. I think they did really well, bringing in some great talent. A grade for Hawks. Now moving on to the Melbourne Demons, and geez, they've just been one of the biggest talking points in this whole off-season, pretty much post-final series. The dramas of how they went out in straight sets, obviously earlier today, all that whatnot with, the drugs and all that. But especially with the trade period, they have been pretty active in terms, especially in the ins and outs. And when you do look at the outs, Brodie Grundy out of the club, and after a year, we can just safely say it didn't work out. We thought it really would work, the 1-2 punch or the tandem with Gawn, but it really didn't. And heading up to the Swans just for better opportunity is a good fit for Grundy. But they got a future second and pick. I think it was a pick in the 40s in return for it. So they didn't really lose too much out on Grundy. So I guess they sort of really broke even, but it just didn't really work out. James Harmes as well, just didn't really get much opportunity for Melbourne really the past 2 seasons now. So off he goes to the Bulldogs. And same with James Jordan. I think it will be a better opportunity for him up in Sydney. They got the deal done on deadline day for Shane McCann. Tom Fullerton, they got the deal done for him early in the week, so just a 24-year-old or mid-20s key forward that can also pinch in the ruck, so adding to the depth there. And Jack Billings is an interesting one, reviving his career potential at D's. Keen to see how he will go. If he can stay injury-free, could be a bit of a talent. But also, let's remember they were pretty aggressive. They did want to move up in this draft. They have pick 6, and they did pay quite a bit to only move up 3 spots, a part of that Gold Coast trade from pick 14 to pick 11. They did get the compensation of 42 from Jordan, and the future second from Sydney and future third from the Bulldogs from those Grundy and Harmes trades. So I'll be giving Melbourne a C grade. The outs do hurt them, I think, depth-wise, but the ins are not bad as well. They did probably pay a little bit too much to only move up 3 spots, but I like it. They're showing a bit of aggression this trade period, and that's what you need to do, especially if you are a top side. But yeah, C grade for the Ds. Now moving on to the North Melbourne Football Club, and definitely another side that has been one of the most active teams in this trade period, of course, with the pick 3 compensation. A lot of people are against it. Look, I think it is a bit of a farce. They definitely really need to, improve the restricted free agency compensation picks, because some of them are an absolute joke. But North Melbourne would definitely take it. Pick 3 from 𝐼𝐴 𝐿𝐼𝐴, and they did use, they did get, of course, those end of first round assistant picks for next year. The future end of first rounds, of course. They did trade them out. One of them went to the Suns in return for pick 18, and the other one went to the Swans as a part of that Dylan Stephens trade. But when you do look at the ins, really improving the depth, which I do like. They need a bit of outside run, and Fisher is a versatile player. They can play on the outside, they can play half back, they can also play as a small forward, so that's a good in there. Dylan Stephens as well, they did give away their future end of first round pick for Stephens, and a player that was just unable to get opportunity at Sydney. So I think if he can really flourish, he can, I think he could be a really good talent. A good left foot he does have as well, and 𝐵𝐿𝐼𝐴 𝐼𝐿𝐼𝐴. I still don't know how to pronounce his name, but played pretty much in the VFL for Richmond, and coming across to improve that key defensive stocks, or that key defensive depth area, which they really do need to improve. I don't mind that as well. And also Toby Pink, don't forget about him. Used to play for the Swans, was delisted, and was playing in the Sandful, so another key defender added into the mix. And also on top of that, pick 3 in the outs of Todd Goldstein and Ben McKay. But I'm going to be giving North Melbourne a B grade for their trade period. It wasn't anything amazing, but hey, bringing in pick 3 was good. They've brought in some good depth options, so nothing out of this world. I just think a solid B grade for North Melbourne is a pretty justified ranking. Now moving on to Port Adelaide, and I really like what they've done this trade period right off the bat. A few people probably disagree with this. I know a lot of Port fans are quite disappointed that they've given up another future first rounder for 2 years now in a row, pretty much splitting picks to bring in 𝐻𝐻𝐿𝐼 and 𝐓𝐸𝐻𝐻. But when you do look at their ends, and, you know, when you look at a side like Port Adelaide, they need to be aggressive. They need to address these needs of the rucks and the key defenders. I've just loved what they've done. 𝐻𝐻𝐿𝐼 and 𝐓𝐸𝐻𝐻. Start with 𝐓𝐸𝐻𝐻. I think he's an underrated player. The last 2 years, he's really improved nicely in that Essendon system, but it's been, you know, a bit of a hiccup, especially in 2023, because he's been playing as on the opposition's best forward week in, week out. He conceded 9 goals against Jesse Hogan. He was unable to really show his full potential or his best ability, but when you move him over to Port Adelaide, sort of play him as that third tall sort of defender and allow 𝐼𝐻𝐿𝐼 or Tom Cleary to take the opposition's best forward, I think he can really show his prowess. He's a good interceptor, and so is 𝐻𝐻𝐿𝐼. I think his best is really good. Yeah, his decision making can be bad, but if he can stay fit, he's an athletic player, he can intercept well, and if you pair him with 𝐼𝐻𝐿𝐼, two really good interceptors, hey, you know, they could be a great duo if things do click. And Ivan Soldo, Jordan Sweet, I like these ins too. Hayes, you know, hasn't really been able to show first team quality. You know, of course, 𝐼𝐻𝐿𝐼 too is just made of paper. 𝐓𝐶𝐞 did get delisted, so you have Soldo and Sweet battling it out. Bit of healthy competition for the #1 ruck. Sweet showed great numbers in the VFL this year. Soldo's a known goal kicker as that forward ruck. I really like their ins. So, you know, and again, giving up a future first, pretty much they did do a, let's be honest, a identical swap alongside, I think it was a pick 76 and a future fourth, as part of the 𝐼𝐻𝐻𝐻 and 𝐷𝐸𝐻𝐻 swap. But I really like their ends, and I'm going to be giving Port a B+. They were aggressive, they addressed the needs, and they did really well from it. Giving up, yes, another future first, but, you know, with the young midfield they do have, and the ends that they've brought in, I think it will really bolster and improve their defensive stability and ruck stocks too. So, yeah, B+ for the Port Adelaide Power. Now, moving on to the Richmond Tigers. It was expected they were going to be one of the more quieter teams this trade period. Had a very busy one last year, bringing in Hopper and Taranto and all those sorts of players. But yeah, right off the bat, they did bring in 𝐼𝐻𝐿𝐼 from the Hawks, who, you know, was a little bit inconsistent for Hawthorn this year. So, hey, in a new environment where they are in desperate need of some young key forwards alongside, you know, the ruck forward of Samson Ryan, if he is able to play and if he's able to keep fit, could turn out nicely. But yeah, I think he's really got to improve his goal kicking. That was a little bit of an issue when he was at the Hawks, but they got him for dirt cheap. I think it was like a pick 49 or something, or 48. Alongside that, also bringing in pick 41 and 65 for the likes of Soldo. I think they did get a good deal for Soldo too. They did get a future second from Port Adelaide and also pick 41, I'm pretty sure it was. But yeah, Soldo, they would have loved to keep him. He's been able to show some good form, but when Nane Curvis has been able to play, he's not really been able to get much opportunity. Alongside Samson Ryan too, who is their most likely future too. So hey, him at Port Adelaide is definitely justified. And also Newen across moving over to North Melbourne, just unable to get much opportunity and probably quite low on the depth chart, given there is also like 𝐻𝐻𝐿𝐼 and a few of those young key backs, probably higher than himself. So he goes out the door, and yeah, they're a pretty quiet one from the Tigers. I'm going to be giving them a C grade from their moves. 𝐻𝐻𝐿𝐼 could really work out. Got him for dirt cheap, so it's almost like nothing to lose. They're in some need of a young key forward, so he could really hit his straps hopefully next year. So yeah, C for the Richmond Tigers. Now moving on to the St Kilda Saints, and definitely another busy team in this trade period. They did bring in Liam Henry across from the Freo Dockers, just a player with upside, and that's really all you can really say. He had some nice games across the span of 2023, a few of the games, especially in the second half of the year, but just didn't really work out at the Dockers. So they got a really good deal for Liam Henry. I think it was a future second and a future fourth they did give up. So I'll definitely take that for a talent like Henry. So yeah, if he can really show his prowess on and off the field, could be a good pickup. Really like the Paddy Dow deal as well. They got a really good deal, I think, for him as well. They just need to improve that midfield, and especially a bit of that, you know, that leg speed and a bit more versatility, and just remove the one paceness, is that a word? Just, you know, improve that sort of versatility in that midfield. And Paddy Dow has the pace. He has that burst of acceleration in and around the football, and I think he could be a really good player for the Saints. Fits the mould nicely. And alongside that, they did get pick 21 from Jade Gresham, pick 40, and a future third from Carlton and also Melbourne. But out the door goes Jade Gresham. But, you know, I think the Saints fans, in all honesty, won't be too disappointed with this. He's just unable to show consistency at the Saints. Caulfield, they'll be very disappointed though. He's just been injured the last 2 years. He has talent, so if he can stay fit, the Bulldogs, I think it will be a good pickup for them. They gave him up for absolute dirt cheap, and Jack Billings also goes out of the club as well, and alongside that, out goes pick 35, 56, a future second and a future fourth. I really like their ins, the Saints. I'm going to be giving them a B- for their trade period. I think their moves were very nice, and they got pretty good deals to bring in Henry and Dow. Now moving on to the Sydney Swans, and let's be honest, definitely one of the biggest, or if not the winners of this trade period, because what they've been able to do, address needs. And when you do look at the Swans, they've got a really good core, but you look around the edges, they're a little bit rough, and especially the area where they do lack is experience, and especially in and around the footy. They don't really have an elite ruckman. Hickey's retired. Ladhams, is he good enough to be the number one ruckman? And then young midfield did get torn apart and was very inconsistent, especially in the contested game. So they've addressed the needs. They've brought in Taylor Adams for a pretty good deal. I think it was pick 33. And Brodie Grundy for a great deal too. Future second and also like a 46 or something like that. But you know, these are two players that I think will cause or have a great impact for Sydney. Grundy, you know, the questions are raised of, will he be able to go back to as an elite self from pretty much the last time he was a good player was around 2019? Well, when he was a solo ruck for Melbourne, he produced great numbers, so I think he's really going to thrive at the SCG for the Swans. And also James Jordan, just adding into that midfield depth, which Sydney do really need to improve. It was really exposed this year, Sydney's depth, so just improving those areas, especially in the defensive half, alongside another player. Joel Hamling picked up for absolutely nothing as a free agent. You know, as I did say earlier in the Fremantle segment, according to their trainers, he's been in the best shape he's been for years. So this could be a really nice pickup for the Swans should he be best 22. But again, adding to that depth. And they got a good deal for Dylan Stephens. They were able to pick up a end of future first, one of those compensation picks for North Melbourne. That was like a pick 19 and also pick 45. And yeah, out the door goes Dylan Stephens. But alongside myself and a few other Swans fans, a little bit of disappointment was just unable to really hit his potential. And him at North Melbourne, he could yeah, really improve. And alongside that, they did get rid of pick 25, 33 and 46, but you know, the main thing is bringing in all these great players or good quality players that will really improve their depth whilst keeping their first rounder and also future first. I thought they did brilliant, Sydney. They did the trades really well. I'm going to be giving them an A+. They absolutely nailed this trade period. Now moving on to the West Coast Eagles, as expected, one of the more quieter teams this trade period, or should I say one of the more quieter teams this trade period in terms of, you know, just bringing in plays, because all the attention is focused on the draft. As expected, they did knock back that terrible offer from North Melbourne, so they are still holding on to pick 1. But in terms of their ins, I really do like it. Tyler Brockman picked up for basically nothing at 44 and 63. He's a player with talent, and you know that's just what they need, young talent, the West Coast Eagles. So really like this in, and Matt Flynn just needing some more opportunity. Heading over to the West Coast Eagles is a great acquisition, I do feel, because you can pair him up with the likes of Bailey Williams, who's really improved this year. A bit of a 1-2 punch as Williams. They, from what I've heard, they probably wanting to play him more forward. So a nice 1-2 punch there, and potentially, you know, just add into that rotation with Darling and Oscar Allen and all that whatnot. But, you know, with the ins and outs, when you just look at that alone, they've kept pick 1. I'm going to be giving them a B-, maybe a bit of a generous grade there, but I just really like their ins. I think they've done really well from those 2 ins, and they haven't really given up. They've pretty much given up nothing for them. So a young, exciting, small forward and a ruckman where they do really improve that area and add to, you know, maybe that 1-2 punch of Bailey Williams. I'm going to be giving them a B-, the West Coast Eagles. But yeah, of course, all the attention is focused on the draft, as they'll most likely be taking Harley Reid. And for the final club in this video, the Western Bulldogs, and heading into this trade period, there were definitely talks of them picking up that pick 4 or now pick 5, and they were able to do it. They probably paid a little bit too much or a little bit overs to get that pick 5, but you know, the most important thing is they've got that pick 5, so they've got good access to pick up a good player. Maybe Nick Watson, Zane Duursma, if a player like him does fall to the Bulldogs pick, who knows? But in terms of the ins and outs, players wise, Nick Caulfield, he comes in for basically nothing. If he's able to keep injury free, I think it could be a really good pickup and an underrated pickup for the Dogs, just adding into that back half depth. He had a really good 2020 season. He was one of their best young players from that year, so you know, he has every chance, should he be injury free, to improve that talent, to really show his worth of a top 10 pick he was back in 2017, I'm pretty sure it was. James Harmes, just another depth inclusion for the Bulldogs midfield. It was exposed this year, their depth, I feel, the Western Bulldogs. So a player like Harmes, he's, you know, not necessarily a big body midfielder, but he plays like one. Him to the Bulldogs for basically nothing. Good pick up there, and yeah, of course the main in was that they're bringing in that pick 5, but they did give away their pick 11, 18 and future first, so quite a bit they have given up, but if they're able to pick up a star, that's all that matters. So yeah, alongside that, they did also give up Jordan Sweet, where, you know, I think a player like him could really improve his craft and really show what he's worth at a club like Port Adelaide. But, you know, they've got Tim English, they've got Roy Love, they've got some good tall stocks. It was expected for a player like Jordan Sweet to leave their club. So yeah, for the Bulldogs, I'm going to be giving them a B. Their ins, they basically paid nothing to bring in the likes of Caulfield and Harmes. Yes, they've given up a bit too much for that pick 5, but they've brought in pick 5. So I like the aggressiveness they've done this trade period. The Bulldogs bring in some good plays for dirt cheap, and also aggressive in bringing in pick 5. So yeah, B grade for the Western Bulldogs. So everyone, there is every AFL club's trade period graded, and yeah, as I always like to say, it's good to have a chat about every AFL club and just have a yarn about their trade business and their ins and outs and all that whatnot. So on your screens right now, there's just every AFL club's grade. Make sure to leave a like and subscribe if you did go on to enjoy today's video, and also feel free to comment down below and let me know what you did think of my grades. Would you maybe change a few other grades? That's totally fair enough. Did spend a while, you know, changing a few of those grades in the process of making this video, but yeah, pretty content with them. But yeah, a pretty hectic trade period it was, especially the last few days and especially that deadline day. But now all the attention is heading into the draft, which is pretty much now a month away at the time we're recording this video. But yeah, appreciate the support, fellas. Make sure to leave a like and subscribe if you do go on to enjoy, as I say again. And apart from that, I'll talk to you later. See you later, fellas.